Hello, welcome everyone to this fourth update of what's happening in Myanmar, bi-weekly updates, a collaboration of SEA Junction, a public venue in Bangkok, and the Irrawaddy, a leading media on Myanmar and beyond in Southeast Asia. We feel that as more time passes, it increased the importance of keeping Myanmar in the public eye. So many things are happening in the world, like the COVID disaster in India and other major events, which may take away the attention that the problem in Myanmar deserves. So it's very important to keep understanding what is going on. And we are very pleased to have Aung Zaw, the chief editor and founder of the Irrawaddy, to explain to us what is happening in the last 2 weeks. He will give a short talk first about the most recent events, and then after that we will open the floor for question and answer. Please, Aung Zaw.
Oh, thank you, Leah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me again. This is the fourth round of our discussion. And also I'm getting a little bit worried and concerned that in spite of what is happening in Myanmar or Burma, I'm afraid that we are going to be a little bit repetitive. But there are a lot, I think, of things still, a lot of things happening inside underneath, and we can still cover and talk and discuss. I think I want to start. You might have already seen the reports of the NUG, National Unity Government, has established the People's Defense Forces. And this means that we are seeing more people that belongs to the protest and the opposition side. They will continue to join the some kind of armed resistance movement that is already taking place in almost, if you look at our websites or our Facebook pages, as well as the other news, and we've seen almost every day that there has been explosions, there has been attack on the police outpost, attack on the government buildings, taking place throughout the country. That shows that country is, as we predicted before, sliding into the more instability and insurrections, more of insurgency type rebellion or uprising against the military regime. You can see the daily bombings and attack and back and forth in the countryside as well as in the Yangon. We can see that. And apart from that, and we don't see a lot of shootings that we used to see in the last 2 months on the streets. But the arrest and such an arrest of those activists or dissidents and opposition members or civil servants who joined the civil disobedience movement. Now the security official, they enter the houses, they enter the rooms, apartments, and then grab them and take them against their own will. So this is happening a lot. So there, I think approximately for over 4,000, I think over 4,000 people have been arrested, and over 3,000 people have been stay under detention. So some have been released, but some over 3,000 people, including prominent members and protest leaders, have been detained without warrant, and they stay in under detention. Most of the members, most of the people, we don't know where they have been detained, how they have been interrogated, and we believe that there are a lot of news coming out of those who released, told us or told other news agencies, including the Irrawaddy, that there has been torture and physical abuse, even to the female prisoners. There has been reportedly there's a lot of sexual exploitation abuses to the political detainees. So that has been reported, I think, last few weeks and even until this week, I think. So with this instability, there has been growing call for the arms embargo. So you can see that, how the Burmese people are inside and outside, as well as the countries and governments and NGOs and INGOs and UN agencies, and as well as the human rights groups, they've been calling for an arms embargo. As well as there was a very interesting report I want to share that you might have seen it. There has been anonymous group called it Independent Economists for Myanmar, IEM. They released a confidential report that suggested that there should be effective sanctions limiting the ability of the regimes to collect the revenue from the natural gas, mining, forestry, shipping, that kind of things that will limit the regime ability to function and control the country. So there has been growing call for these sectors, also including targeting the Myanmar Economic Corporation, which is owned by the military, and also Myanmar Economic Holdings Limited, MEHL, the two military-owned conglomerates. They have earned, I think, at least, only in the domestic, so they have earned at least $200 million per year, and they have owned almost everything inside the country. So now, what the IEM is suggesting is, without the foreign currency inflow, the military will soon need to ration the foreign currency. So whether this session will really make the regime to think twice, we don't know yet. I think the pressure is really mounting on the military and military family members, where I want to mention a very interesting thing about military family members, because the last 10 years when the country was opening up, it's not only the ordinary Burmese people, but also the retired military generals and their family members have enjoyed the openness and the business. And they have owned a mid-range and medium-sized businesses inside and outside of Burma. And so they have accumulated a lot of wealth, as well as sending their children to abroad to study, including to Thailand, to Singapore, to Hong Kong, to the US, to Australia. And now I think they feel the pinch. They started to feel that there has been a pressure going against them and a sanction going after them, and also social punishment. If you study, if you monitor, they are posting in the social media, right after the military coup, and then now after 3 months of military coup, you can see that, their disappointment, their frustration, their grievance, because they are also facing, they are not above, because they also facing this economic, a hardship inside the country. And they also very worried about their future and their children and their kids who study abroad. I think this is going to have a very important point to see that not only the ordinary Myanmar people, but also the retired military leaders, mid-ranking official, I mean the colonel level or brigadier general level, who retire or are stay active, but who have a lot of investment, like they are very much involved in my service sector, hotel business. They own a medium-sized factories. They also run the import and export businesses inside the country. So what I see, my observation when I look at their posting, when we talk to our own sources who are also including the military, who are very sympathetic to the this movement, who are very much in line with the openness in the country, who also oppose this military coup. They have been keeping to inform us that there are a lot of grievance inside the military and also among the military retired leaders and children, that the country is going to the wrong direction. Because this is very interesting. I think we whoever thinking about keeping a pressure on the regime I think we should look into that sector. I think very important. And also I want to also emphasize that sometimes we deviated, and then because of the campaign, because of ongoing momentum and a movement, or because of the formation of the NUG, also because of the ASEAN summit, there are a lot of deviation, distraction happening last 3 months. But we should, I think, refocus. What happened just after the coup? Just after the military coup, the coup maker, General Min Aung Hlaing, came out to make a policy statement and promised, he made a 5-point roadmap. That includes the formation of the Union Election Commission, as well as to help the business, which is not going anywhere, and also to preventive measure against the COVID-19. We are now facing, I think, possible third wave coming, and all the physicians, a lot of physician people who join the CDM movement, I don't think they are going to be sitting in hospitals to receive the treatment, to receive the patients. And also, he promised to achieve the eternal peace across the country, which you can now see that the war going on, instability descending into the country. And lastly, he also promised to hold free and fair general elections. So after 3 months, my question back to him is, what kind of accomplishment, what sort of homework has he done so far after 3 months? My understanding is nothing. I think nowadays you can see the expansion of the some of the his cabinet members and to hold on the power, and this is something that we should not forget, that we should look into this, that what he has promised and what he started to deviate it after 3 months. And this is what we have to not only ask. I'm talking about China and ASEAN, because ASEAN also come up with the 5 points talking about sending envoys inside the country and to provide the humanitarian assistance, and invited Min Aung Hlaing to come to the ASEAN summit to discuss about the country's situation. But after he went back, he said he will honor all these ASEAN recommendations, but only the stability is restored in the country. So I think he is denying it because he couldn't control the inside the country, but not only the population, but also inside the military. Recently, we see the report of at least 80 Air Force officers and soldiers defected. That this is a large number. That there are more and more, I think, Navy and Air Force officers who are disgruntled and who are not happy with this ongoing situation, and they are leaving the Navy and Air Forces. So that will change also dimension within the military establishment, because they have to think twice whether they want to control tight or they want to loosen up, or whether they have to allow the ASEAN to step in and to have a much more, I think, how to call it, to deflect the international pressure, or else to allow the UN special envoy to come into Myanmar. So far, she has been denied. She has been refused to enter the country, but she has been pushing to get access to inside the country. So I think you can see that if you look at it, underneath the military itself is facing increasing pressure within the country, from the population, also from the military. So this is what we have to look at it. And then lastly, what I want to talk is that the NUG also expanded some ministries, and also there were some hearing at the Senate, U.S. Senate, by the Chom Young, who's a UN ambassador. So talking about recognitions and having more acknowledgement from the governments around the region, around the world. So this is, I think, another development I think I would like to share with you. But lastly, I think Going back to the sanctions, natural gas is the biggest, I think, revenue that military has earned. And apart from that, the mining sector is the second most important. The military has making a lot of fortune from it. And then the other import, export businesses, and the timber and the telecommunication fees. These are the revenues that the military was generating. And also, you might have seen that there was a French newspaper published, I think this week, it revealed that total the operation in Myanmar has been, the French company operation has been propping up the military junta by diverting money from the gas sales to the offshore account instead of the government. According to the documents assessed by the French newspaper and released after the military coup, the Yadana gas field, which supplies gas to local markets in Myanmar and Thailand, is diverting revenue to the MOGE, Myanmar Oil and Gas Enterprises, which is entirely managed by army executives and retired military officers. So I think nowadays, Thailand PTT and France Total and US Chevron and also the South Korea is a POSCO, I think, and also CNPC, China. And these are the companies that are still propping up, and regime is still getting very comfortably getting revenue from the gas, natural gas and exploration. So I think this is something that I think activists and a lot of advocacy groups will target. And according to this and IME, I think IEM report, if they can really freeze the access, regime will have a problem because they will cut off roughly US $2 billion per year. So if the measure can take it against the military-owned companies and cut off these gas pipelines. So the point is how to cut off the oxygen pipeline of the military and its enterprises. If we can do so, the question is whether they will come to compromise. They will make a more concession at the end. So thank you very much. I think I will be happy to answer your questions. I think I will stop here now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this new perspective, meaning emphasizing more on the economic sides and the importance of cutting the financing of the military and of the country. So I will open the floor for 3 questions. You can raise your hand, your little hand on the screen, or otherwise write in the chat box. We have already a question, so I will start with that while other people may pose our questions. So how do you assess the role of mainstream media in Southeast Asia in reporting the crisis of Myanmar so far? About in general, your analysis of how media in the region have reported the situation. And then another question is more a pragmatic one of how we can get the IM report. Actually, the report that you have mentioned, how can we get that? I am so interested into that. Okay, so please, let's start from this.
I think the first question is very good. You guys are always ask a very good question, so I really respect and I really appreciate it. Just first of all, I want to say that really good question you asked. That's why I enjoy this discussion. I think it depends, you know, how the mainstream media in the region keep reporting on Myanmar issue. I think it's very important, and I think like a lot of newspaper in Japan are very critical of reporting on Myanmar issue since the military coup. And also I think that even Straits Times relatively soft on the Myanmar issue came out a bit more harder on the Myanmar issues. And if you talk about the whole ASEAN, I think depends on the nature of the governments, depends on the nature of the authoritarian governments, the nature of the censorship and imposed on each countries. And you can completely see that you can measure the reporting style and how what kind of stand they take to cover. Even in Thailand, I think Thai language press are much more vocal and critical, surprisingly. But sometimes also in some Thai language, English language newspaper, I can see that some of the opinion pieces or commentaries are pretty disappointing, because I think what generally I will be a little bit hesitate to compliment Western media coverage on Myanmar in general, because of I think they seems to be very simplifying the issue on the ground. They want to try to make it simplifying the facts on the ground, which will make us very disappointed. Which we have seen a lot of reports that are inaccurate or accurate, but actually they're trying to simplify it. So it makes you very ill-informed and misinformed. I think that's why I always think that the regional media and mainstream media are very important to provide not only the facts but also the nuances in the country, in Myanmar. I think that's important for us. So I think to answer your question, because whenever I answer, I think I give a long answer. So I want to end it here. That I think, to be fair, I think Indonesia, I don't know. I think Indonesia, I think because of the ASEAN initiative has been quite critical in reporting on the Myanmar issue. Leah, do you agree?
I agree. They have been critical on Myanmar, but they have been a little bit acritical about the role of the Indonesian government. I think they have been very proud of the Indonesian government taking the initiative in ASEAN, and without asking a tough question about the implication of that role and how far that role would be beneficial to the people of Myanmar, rather than just bringing a superficial peace. So I think this has been, to me at least, from reading Indonesian media as well as English media reporting, this kind of nationalism has a little bit obscured the situation as far as ASEAN-related issue in Myanmar. And of course, they are hoping that the envoy will be from Indonesia, the ASEAN envoy. So there is a lot of nationalism, and of course, Jokowi wants to profile itself as regional figures, and this issue may, I think, influence the perception, not only of the media, but also of think tank. Indonesian think tank, I think, have been, sometimes a little bit critical vis-a-vis the role in the regional context. But on Myanmar itself, yes, I think they are very, very concerned. Now that we have a lot of questions.
No, I think you are right. I think so. Even in Thailand, you may be very disappointed to see that some of the Thai intellectual writing on Myanmar issue, and some of the respected figures we have known them, and then they came out very soft on Myanmar issue, which is quite a disappointing for us. That is my concern, our concern, or that's why the role of the independent media is very important. I always believe that I've been running this work, my mission for last almost 30 years, and I believe that the role of the independent media is very important. And we have seen a lot of Thai language newspaper covering about the refugee crisis, Burmese migrants worker situation inside Thailand, Some are very critical and some are very sympathetic, but also some are talking about a lot of nuances and details of which the Thai people hugely benefited from this kind of informative and fact-based analysis, so that they understand more instead of having prejudice or discriminated thinking about the neighboring country. I think Thai, because of thanks to the Thai media and social media as well. I think a lot of sympathetic. We can see that a lot of Thai people are very sympathetic towards what is happening inside the country and those who are fleeing to the border. And these are important, I think, for us. But also, I think as ASEAN is stepping up to engage with the regime and also other forces inside the country, I think media in the region is much more important. I think independent media are much more important to engage, to understand, to educate themselves. I think that's what I think. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you. Thanks to you. And I think we have a lot of questions now, so I have to try to shorten up a little bit. But the first one is, you stated that there is less shooting and more bombings. How you know about this, considering the internet situation? And is this a change of strategy and towards arrest, the less shooting, and towards more arrest and detention vis-a-vis killing of protesters? I think is what we were talking before this news start. So is there a change of strategy, that there is less shooting and more arrest of political prisoners? Now then, I want to know about the Buddhist monks. Are they involved in the movement and support the regime, the military, or not? Do you expect AA and ANP to remain sitting on the fence? How has the military managed to persuade the very smart leaders of AA to stay neutral after fighting the Tatmadaw for so long? I think we start with this, and there are more, so not too long.
Well, I think, yeah, if remind me, yeah, you have to raise your hand if I talk too long.
I will.
I think less shooting is a good thing, right? I think less shooting is a good thing. I think, but my analysis is, I think there are less people on the streets, and the security forces stay engaged or brutally stay indiscriminately stay shooting the people. Even yesterday there was in Mandalay, I think the people lined up to get the COVID injection, and there was a protest by the motorcycles, and I think soldiers started to shoot the motorcycle, but the bullet hits a woman who were lining up to get the COVID injection. So they are still ordered to shoot to kill anyone. But I think because of the climate of fear, particularly inside in Yangon, there are a lot of kind of hit and run, protest, and people just came out and shout and ran away. Even banging the pots and pans, which is very popular. Even CNN and BBC, they reported that just right after the military coup. Now, what the military trying incite the fear is that if there's apartment, if the upstairs, if they started to bang the pots and pans or sing sounds in position to the military coup, the military or security forces stationed or patrolling in the streets, they will start destroying all the vehicles. They will start destroying, damage all the vehicles and the cars, and few dozen, so I think this is how they're trying to intimidate and incite the fear. So I think even that people are now refrain from doing that. People are very worried about arrest and also damages. So that's how the military is trying to, trying to create the fear among the people. And second is a lot of homemade bombs being exploded throughout the country. A lot of attacks are expected. If you are coming weeks, I think we will see more and more attacks because of a lot of youth who attended the short-term military or explosive trainings in the countryside, along with the some ethnic groups. We are returning, I believed. I think. I'm talking as purely as a professional journalist. I think they are returning to the areas. So you can see that there are a lot of bombing, a lot of attacks taking place in these areas. And if you look at the regime mouthpiece newspaper, you can see the full page of arrest and crackdown on these homemade explosive and guns, air guns, or all that kind of things. A lot of also, I think, also weapons. I think we have reported also went inside the country from the border checkpoints through the border, not through the border checkpoint, of course, through the border areas. So I think, sadly, I think a lot of attacks and what take place. People feel that they have to fight back, and it's becoming very common. Before the water festival in April, we saw that Molotov were commons inside the country. But people now, I can see the nature of the attack has changed and transformed. They are no longer Molotovs, and they are much more sophisticated, a little bit more sophisticated. Remote control mines or other weapons are being applied and used to go after the security forces. And that is happening. That's not going to end tomorrow or next day. It's going to be, I think, quite a longer, I think, fight and clashes between security forces and people. Okay, your first question is done.
Yes. Now the other one was about the Arakan National Party and how can they work together, and it will be very difficult to convince them and to work with. So,
well, you will be very surprised to see that Arakan is very stable now. The rest of Myanmar, but except Arakan, the rest of Myanmar is very volatile. The Arakan state is very stable. That is quite interesting. I don't want to interpret a lot into this. That means AA and the military junta are still are not going into the fights, and the AMB and AA they are still very much engaging. And I think you can see that even the military leaders they are very worried, and they are quite happy to see that the normalcy has returned to Rakhine State. I think you can have your own interpretation why. Because of last 3 years, you see that we saw that really bloody war took place between the security forces and AA, but not anymore. It's all quiet. And AA is happy to have its own territory and establish there. Now AMB are saying that the fight, what is happening, the conflict now is between Burma to Burma. It's nothing to do with us. So this is quite interesting. If you look at the other ethnic region, I think there are a lot of, interactive and communication and coalition and alliances being forged. But in Arakan State, I think it's a different.
The question was how did the Tatmadaw convince them to remain neutral?
How did the army, Tatmadaw convince who?
They managed to persuade the leaders of AA to remain neutral after they have been fighting for so long. What do you think are
Oh no, I think I don't want to go too much detail. I don't want to elaborate too much into this. I think AA has been very pragmatic. They have been very pragmatic. I think that's how they are still remain calm. But we never know. You know that who is behind AA also a question to raise. China is definitely behind the AA is Wa or China is behind. So if China tells AA to be quiet, AA will be quiet. If China tells AA to be a bit more proactive, AA will be much more active. But this is also something that you have to look at the game plan.
Okay, I am sure we will go again in more detail, but we have to move. So there was the question about the Buddhist monks. On which side? I mean, there are many different kinds of Buddhist monks. So are they involved in the movement, or they are in support of the regime? And which group of monks are in support of whom?
I think personally, I think a lot of abbots, a lot of established monks who are seen as military, pro-military monks, are being used, being exploited. And these monks are stay with the military. A lot of young monks are siding with the people, but also there are a lot of monks who are very agitated, who are very unhappy with Aung San Suu Kyi and the government for various reasons. They are sitting on the fence. So not like in the 2007 Saffron uprising, we don't see a large number of Buddhist monks, which approximately we have over 300,000 to 400,000 Buddhist monks living in the country. We don't see the large number of Buddhist monks coming out of the streets in support of the CDM or in support of the people, and also activists or opposition to the coup. So that's how I see it. And also there are also quite a number of Buddhist monks who come out to support the people and against the military coup.
Okay, so we go to, there are two good questions from Biravit. The first is about Thailand and Myanmar. So the first things that happen in Thailand is to really say that they have to ensure that the supply of gas from and trade from Myanmar is not stopped or interrupted. So will be very difficult for the Thai government to impose economic and political sanctions because they have clear interest in that, and so is for company. The second question is also about civil society. How is civil society doing at this moment? Are they under the watch? Are they able to get funding? What is the situation of civil society organization? This is from the same person. There is also a question from Kim Atkinson. What would be the most useful role for country in supporting the NUG? Is any talk about responsibility for protection is something still to push, or is something that is not worth pursuing further? Is any hope for responsibility? Would intervention be a positive development towards, and is it realistic to opt for intervention? I think I stop here for now. There are other questions, but let's discuss first these, which are quite significant too.
I think they're all good questions. I think Thailand, well, of course, you cannot expect Thailand to have any kind of trade sanctions, or but instead, then you will see Thailand will be eager to make more business with whoever is in the power in Myanmar. And I think there's Myanmar is, I mean, a lot of abundance and natural resources, and Thailand is also exporting a lot of goods. Recently, there was a soft drink issue with the Thai Commerce Ministry. The Myanmar regime, Myanmar authorities were saying that they cannot export through the land route, but have to go through the sea route. So I think that will force at least the Commerce Ministry or Commerce Minister to fly to Naypyidaw or to Burma to discuss the issue. So I think Myanmar will always play the upper hand, whether related to the border issues or border trades or trade with the business with Thailand. I think this is how the Thailand and Myanmar will play well. And also, you can see that Thailand has been seen as much more, I think, closer to this regime. This is what the people are writing and talking about it, and since the military coup. So I don't see any kind of Thailand is imposing any sort of sanction on Burma. But also, I think at the same time, Thailand, I hope that like in 88 or 89, when the students, thousands of students fled to the border areas, Thailand will exercise some kind of restraint not to deport those people back to the country, but also to have some kind of a humanitarian policy to welcome them and treat them in a time swine until they can return to the country. So I think there are a lot of thousands of people already fled. A lot of journalists and reporters also fled. They are now hiding or staying in the Thai Myanmar border areas. Some of them are my colleagues. I have already spoke to them. They are very much worried about the current time political situation and domestic political situation, as well as the Thailand policy towards Myanmar. But at the same time, I think Thai establishment and Thai military and the Thai government is also very much concerned with the instability in Myanmar. Because of along the border areas, not only refugees and over 3 million, 4 million migrant population are living inside the country, but also I think Thailand see that has been ongoing armed conflict along the border areas. So Thailand has always been constantly in contact with the Shan or Karen or other bases, other ethnic armed forces along the border areas. And particularly with the Shan, they've been seen as a buffer, used as a buffer zone between the Burma and Thailand. So these are the forces, and these are the, I think, dynamic. I think we have to treat them very carefully. And Thailand also, or Thai establishment and security forces, or even the National Security Councils, I think they are careful to looking at these dynamic in Thailand, because of it is not a black and white. It's not a situation is completely different from the 1988 afterwards. This situation is very different, and Thailand itself has its own political domestic issues, and I think a lot of Burmese people, Myanmar people, dissidents who fled and who came to Thailand, they have a great concern about with the Thai-Myanmar relationship that will have a lot of effect on them.
Okay, so we go to the last round of question about the social media.
No, I think you asked
another question. Yes, sorry, about civil society. Yes,
civil society. Are you asking about civil society inside the country?
Yes,
inside the country.
Yeah, inside the country, Myanmar, are they able to operate, to receive funding? What is their situation?
No, I think this question is very good because of there's no answer. It's going to be very difficult for a lot of civil society groups who were very active, used to be active in last 5 years to 10 years inside the country. They've all been disappeared. They've been hiding now. They've been gone. Some of them have been to either they fled to India or they fled to Thailand or along the border areas. So I think they will continue to work, but now how they can work with their huge network inside the country. That is a big issue. I also think I'm very favor of supporting those CSOs, civil society groups, and I think there will be a much more creative way to fund them. And also there are a lot of groups, INGO, and a lot of supporting groups already left. They closed, they shut their offices. They came to, or they went back to their own countries, or they moved to underground, or they came to Thailand, or because of the COVID situation, would make them much more complicated to operate. So I think they are finding a way out to keep supporting those CSO and inside and those who fled. But sadly, a lot of CSO have closed down their offices and came to the border areas. And also, Irrawaddy itself, as an independent media, we have shut down our operation inside the country. We are operating now from outside the country. We can no longer operate inside the country.
That is sad. So a moment of silence on this, but okay, there was the other question about responsibility for protection, whether would still intervention be feasible or wishful, could it have any impact? I mean, it seems not many are talking anymore about, this is my own addition, not many seems to be talking about.
Well, I think I will give you very honest, blunt answer that I think since the beginning, R2P placards and R2P asking for R2P a demonstration taking place inside the country, I thought that it was given a wrong impression and also given a false hope among the general population. I don't think R2P is going to happen in Myanmar or Burma. I think also it's hugely disappointing to see that this R2P thing was, it created a lot of misunderstanding and created a lot of false hope among the Burmese people. Because even some of my colleagues who were very educated and who were very angry with the military coup, whenever I had a telephone conversation with them last 2 months, when the country was reaching the climax, protests were reaching the climax, they asked me a simple question: when are they coming? Is UN is coming? So I was very sad to tell them that it's not going to happen. No. Only possibility is that if Burma is going to be like much more like a Syria or a real failed state, maybe them kind of humanitarian-based intervention force may come to Burma. I don't know.
Okay, the last round, the role of social media. I am here joining two different questions, but all on social media in terms with all the obstacle of social media, the internet cut, etc. How representative is what we read? Because many people may not be able to really post, and are we getting a biased view or a limited view because of this block of news that is happening in the country, and how comprehensive and what can be the role of social media in a situation like this? These are two different questions joined together. The second question I am posing is about the recognition of the NUG. Again, we have not seen country recognizing, this is my own elaboration, but the question is about countries, should they recognize the NUG? But we have seen so far no one really has done it formally. Mm-hmm. And why, this is my own addition, why you think it's the case, and do you think they will in the future, especially regarding ASEAN? Maybe it's easier, the question says, easier for Europe maybe but for ASEAN seems difficult at this point. And now then the third and last question is about, no, there are two more, sorry. One is the impact of what you say of the children of retired general. What you think will be this, what you said, how influential will they able to be, and what will be their impact on the situation? And the last one here about a Facebook account of people in Myanmar being hacked abroad. How far is this hacking and control of the military over Myanmar citizen abroad, as far as you know?
Okay, I think questions are good, but I think the time is running out. I think NUG, I start with NUG. NUG is quite interesting, but also I'm not a member of NUG. I cannot speak for them, but I think instead of giving a recognition, I think even having them in a forum or international forum, having them to invite, having them to speak up, having them to listen to the other representative, I think it's very good. I think China and ASEAN members individually are engaging with NUG, and also some Western governments and EUs. They are US. They are also engaged with obviously engaged with the NUG government, and there are a lot of sticking issue. I think NUG has also a lot of good support inside the country compared to other ASEAN government in the past, which is quite interesting. That's all I can say. The NUG, even though there has no government come out to officially recognize the NUG, still there are a lot of extended invitation, a lot of discussion, a lot of warm welcome to the NUG members and NUG ministers, which I still think they are legitimate force. They are representative people. They are elected people. Some of them are. So I think NUG is still an important force. I think that will play a role as the Myanmar slided into the much more, I think, instability. I think at the a lot of good people are also in the NUG, but don't forget that the foreign minister and the state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, she stay under detention, and the president is still under detention. So I think they're key people. Sometimes that's why I keep reminding that we should be careful about deviation. We should be careful about distractions. We should be careful about not to forget the core issues. A lot of elected government leaders stay under detention. That's a key point. They should be released immediately. They should be free as soon as possible. That's the important thing, I think. That is where the NUG is only to echo what the people in Myanmar or what the elected representative wanted. And that's the only job they have to do. I don't think even though they are given a lot of mandate inside and outside, I think NUG will have to form, and it's still very premature stage, I think, my humble observation, but they have to form a much more, I think, consolidated and comprehensive policy towards how to treat the issue inside and outside. I think it will come out very slowly. They are also learning. A lot of people that friends I used to know, they are now becoming ministers. Some are human rights workers, and human rights champion, which is very interesting. And I think they are also learning to work with these ongoing events, and which is we will see. As a journalist, I'm stay wait and see.
Okay, wait and see. But what about the social media? What can you tell us?
I forgot the question of social media. I think social media, I stopped using Facebook even before the coup. So I myself a person who is very skeptical of the social media and Facebook. So if you keep looking at the Facebook alone, if you want to follow the Myanmar issue, people said that you will get very depressed or you will get very angry. Either way, extreme way. So if you keep looking at if you wake up in the morning and if you started to look at the Facebook, which is yes, and you will start to be misled, you will start to be misguided, you will start to believe in something that is completely untrue about what is happening on the situation on the ground. So my friends joke that please don't look at the social media or the Facebook because you will get very depressed. What you see there and what you read there and what is happening on the ground is very different. So I think, but at the same time, I think social media is important and it generates a lot of interest. A lot of people inside the country are using it. And even before the military coup, Myanmar was one of the most promising countries in Southeast Asia because of the internet connection and mobile ability and capabilities that we have. So on the positive side, the business, small business, medium-sized business, everyone is growing because of thanks to the internet connection and the millions of people hook up to the internet and social medias, and now they are doing online businesses. And so now we're back to the dark age, which is the dark side of the story. So, but at the same time, lastly, what I want to mention is the military intelligence. Now they sit in their room, they just watch the Facebook and they just started to arrest the people. If you look at the announcement of each day, I think the military intelligence and the special branch officers, they don't have to go after a lot. Not like in 20 years ago, each case that they have to build up for, they have to spend like months after months to build the one case after another case to track down a person, an individual, and the information. Because now, thanks to the Facebook, now I think the officer, my understanding and my analysis, is they just sit and watch what you're doing and what you post in the social media, and they just track down on those people. So you can see that the last 3 months, the physicians and the entertainers or the prominent people, whoever joined the protest, whoever joined the CDM movement, or doctor or whoever, I think now military, what they're conveniently doing is they track down their Facebook, and then get the information and arrest them. That's the dark side of the social media.
Yeah, that relates to the question whether you think is the government also monitoring citizens abroad and intervening and messing up with their accounts and other.
Yes, I think the question is very valid. Thanks for the question. I think even we are operating outside, we have to be extremely careful these days, using the VPN and using different kinds of strategy to firewall to protect yourself because of with the help from Russia, with the help from the Israel's. I think the military regime is much more sophisticated and to monitor your activities and your work, and they're getting a lot of help from other people. That's why I think the movement, so even the independent media like us, also should get a lot of technical and a lot of support from other people to prevent ourselves from the dangers. Thank you for the questions.
The last question was about the children, the impacts. I mean, how you think it will play out, the children of the retired general, what you mentioned in your speech before?
Oh, well, it is very interesting to see. I think because they have enjoyed so much wealth and they have also enjoyed the openness and then this democracy. And I'm not saying that they love democracy. I'm saying that they can make a good fortune because the country is opened up and the country is connected and the investment is coming in. They are small business. Maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they have opened a noodle shop, but today they are running import-export companies. They are selling luxurious cars or vehicles. They open a Mercedes-Benz companies in Yangon. Those kids They don't want this military coup. They have suffered a lot from this shutdown and the sanctions and social punishment, and also business are leaving. So I think what they are saying now is they have a lot of enormous pressure, and they cannot make money. Also, if they go out of the country, they don't know they cannot foresee what kind of impediment, what kind of problems, what kind of problem they will face with the diasporas and other security forces. That make them very nervous, worried, and that's a discussion. Also, I would say that this is a discussion we trying to monitor. We're trying to monitor means as a journalist, we're trying to understand and monitor the pattern and trend of these retired military officers and their family members who are immensely rich, and now because of the military coup, I think they also losing a lot from this military coup. They are making a complaints now, which is important, I think.
So thank you. So will be a long-term impact of their disappointment. And to conclude, I think we are really glad and proud that you can be with us for 1 hour, considering all the pressure that you are going. We are sorry that you had to close your operation in Myanmar. I know how much effort it costed to establish that after finally, after you were waiting for that moment for many years, and finally you were able to return to Myanmar and establish Irrawaddy in Myanmar, in Burmese, and again being read within the country was very important, and it cost a lot of efforts, and I am sure it cost even more effort having to close down that operation. So thank you again for spending time for us, and I hope you all will continue to watch us and support the Irrawaddy, support independent journalists. You can see the link at the end of this Zoom meeting, but you can also contact Irrawaddy directly. So thank you again for following us. We will have at least two more events, and the next one will be on the 20th of May. So please continue to keep caring about Myanmar and keep advocating for a better Myanmar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kap.